Hello foodies, welcome into another video. I'm Das Food, and today we are taking a look at a very big, huge announcement in the DBD community, but I promise I'll take it down from there. But I'm not being over dramatic when I say this is the biggest update ever. There is nothing that they have ever added to the game that has added to it or changed it quite like this. Not adding hex totems, not adding scourge hooks, boons, whatever. Nothing has been as monumental as this change. And this is coming from somebody who's played the game for 5 years now. We're celebrating year 6. So look, maybe you could say that some cumulative changes have been larger, sure. Little changes that have all come together, little micro evolutions that have come together to make one macro evolution, but nothing in one fell swoop has been as big as this. This being the developer update that has told us about the mid chapter coming out. So I'm not going to bore you with all of this right here. I'm going to very quickly skim over all this, and then we're going to get into what actually matters, which is the perk reworks and the prestige system. So I guess they lead with the prestige system, an overhauled progression system. This is very, very exciting. So the goal here for behavior is obviously twofold. One, they want to reduce the grind, and two, they want to speed up the pace of play. And the way they're going to do that is through two different means, naturally. So they will reduce the grind by reworking the prestige system, which is going to massively benefit the players, by the way. And then they're going to speed up the pace of play by changing a lot of perks. Remember, it's 39. That's a lot of perks, and so many of them were meta. And if you remember, we made a very fun video that, hey, who knows, maybe I'll actually remember to put a little title card up for, but I highly doubt it. We made a video where we predicted what each of these was going to look like, and some of my predictions came true, some of them didn't, but you know, you should probably go back and watch it because I mean, it was a good video. Okay, so here's the big thing. Here is the absolute massive thing, right? So they have this tagline that they use a few times. They are cutting the grind by roughly 75% per their estimates. We'll see how accurate that turns out to be, but that's pretty big. That's pretty big if that's true. So let's talk about it. When you prestige, all of that character's perks are added to every other character. So let's say, I think they give the example of Trapper on here, but okay, so Trapper, right? If you prestige Trapper, he has 3 teachable perks, right? Agitation, Brutal Strength, and Unnerving Presence. By prestiging him once, every other killer in the game gets those 3 perks at level 1. Pretty good, right? I mean, that's pretty good. If you prestige him to level 2, all of those perks are added to every other killer at level 2, and so on and so forth. You see how this works, right? This gives you a very valid reason to prestige, and as they mentioned down here, no more resets. That means if you are one of those people who you've never prestiged your character and you have every perk unlocked on them, and now they're giving you new benefits for prestiging, good news. You can prestige and you don't lose any of your med kits, any of your special event items. If you're like me and you like to hold on to one item from each, you know, kind of event that they do as sort of as a token, you know, of that event, you don't lose it now. And in fact, they even talk about this prestige system here where if you want bloody cosmetics, you now have to get 4, 5, and 6, but that is no longer tied to perks. So if you don't care about the cosmetics, you don't have to do it. But it's really cool that they're doing this to give people more, I guess, more of a reason to grind even further. Your prestige level will be shown to everyone. Let me click on that right there so you can see a closer image of it. So these are not ranks. I've seen people talking about, oh, look, we'll be able to see people's ranks. No, this would be a twins main. This is Peanuts, by the way. Peanuts, I should probably say. It sounds, I didn't pronounce that very clearly. 7. A devotion, not devotion, I'm sorry, a prestige 7, a prestige 5, a prestige 8 here, right? These are not ranks. These are how many times you've prestiged. So you'll get to flex, and I can't wait for the hilarious memes of, like, you know, a Dwight Fairfield that's like prestige 400 within 2 weeks, because you know somebody's gonna do it. So that's pretty cool, and I think that's about it with the prestige thing. I think it's a fantastic change. I wish they'd done it a long time ago, but I'm not here to criticize mistakes from the past. I'm here to give credit for what's going well right now. And right now, this is a good change. This is a really, really cool change. Shrine of Secrets, nothing too notable here. It's just it's a blanket upgrade like everything else. So let's say you get barbecue and chili off of the Shrine of Secrets. What it's going to do now is it's going to give you level 1 barbecue and chili on all of your killers. These are, and I know I started that by saying it's not much, and I said it's massive. I mean, it's massive. All of this together is huge, and this is extremely exciting. Let me see. Do they have? Yeah, you get a special prestige icon if you've reached prestige 3 on any character. So there is still reason to try to grind before the mid-chapter hits, which obviously is not going to be too soon, but also not that far away. So hey. It is currently the anniversary event. The best time to grind. Do it. Get out there. Matchmaking incentives. This is all pretty straightforward stuff. I mean, it's basically just trying to make your queue times a little less terrible. If somebody is really, really interested in me breaking this down, please let me know. But I think this is the least interesting part of the update. Gameplay updates. Here's a big one. Gen speeds have been slowed down. Now, I know some people are going to be very upset about this, but there's good news. They've only been slowed down. They take 90 seconds. It's right here. 90 seconds instead of 80 seconds. And to me, I'm interested to see how this goes. But my general thought process is that this is a bit of a win. Because for the longest time, the devs had said, no, we are not interested in changing the speed. There's just no purpose in that. It would feel terrible. But a 10-second addition, not bad. Not bad. I think that's actually pretty good. And the real kicker here, which I guess that's ironic, I wasn't trying to make a pun, but kicking a generator will now instantly remove 2.5% of that generator's progress. This changes a lot because if you know, you know, and the thing that you currently should know is that for most of DBD's existence, kicking generators has been a near complete waste of time. I usually do it because I like the blood points, but as far as competitive play goes, there's just no reason. And what this really counters, what this does that is absolutely massive, is it makes it so that when people run by and tap the gen while you're looping them, you can knock off 2.5% more. So it de-incentivizes them to tap a gen because they're going to lose a lot more progress this way. So that's huge. I love that. Next, we have some general killer improvements. And what I like about these is they're not going to be so much that the top tier killers become just completely unavoidable, but they are going to make people like Clown and Pig a lot better. So a couple numbers to go through here. Breaking walls and pallets is going to be 10% faster now. Generators will be kicked 10% faster. Basic attack cooldown is reduced by 10%. Again, are any of these massive changes by themselves? No. But together, this adds up to a much smoother experience for killer. Bloodlust is going to increase more quickly. I am a little worried about that one. That's the only one here that, if I had to criticize an aspect of this patch, Bloodlust is already not my favorite mechanic, and I'm not super glad that it's getting essentially a 10-second buff, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Maybe not a 10-second buff. That's not entirely accurate. Camping and tunneling. So this is where we get something extremely new. They should say it here. Yeah, conspicuous action is the name of the game. So this is going to basically be doing anything useful for the team. Healing, doing bones, a generator, whatever. If you are in some way doing something that can hurt the killer, you are doing what they call a conspicuous action. So hold on to that thought. Keep that in your head, huh? Because that's going to come into play later on and also right now. So obviously, behavior is aware that camping and tunneling, it's not fun. It's not fun for the person being camped and tunneled, and it's really not fun for the killer either. But it is a viable strategy, and something should probably be done about that. So look at that. They're doing something about it. Turns out that borrowed time is kind of sort of base kit now, just not quite in those words. So they notice they even use the term second chance perks, which is hilarious. I love that they actually addressed it for what it is. Unhooking a survivor will give them the endurance status effect, which means that if you get hit, you have to mend as if Legion had hit you with Feral Frenzy, or I guess even more accessible here, I could say like you got hit while somebody used borrowed time on you. So it is a little borrowed time. It lasts for 5 seconds, and you get a 7% haste status effect for those 5 seconds. So you're faster and you can tank the hit no matter what, which is pretty cool. That's actually a pretty good way to that's a pretty good way to de-incentivize hitting somebody straight off the hook. Now, is 5 seconds a lot? No, it's not a lot. However, it's also it's better than nothing. See, borrowed time, which got reworked here, we're going to address it, is still strong. But now you don't have to bring it. It is not required to bring it. Because so many times I wanted to go for a save on a teammate, but I knew they were going to get downed the second I took them off the hook because I didn't have borrowed time. So this is kind of nice. Even if I could see this being a pain for killers, I still think it's kind of good. I wanted to see if in some way this deactivates during the end game, because I know that comes into play for borrowed time now. Or not in borrowed time, I think for decisive strike. And again, we'll get to all of the perks. We're going to go through each and every one of them, so stay tuned for that. I don't know. That's kind of interesting. Okay, so meta perk changes. They broke this up into 2 parts. Meta perk changes and the buffs for non-meta perks. And they gave us this cool graph. I'm about to get even whiter for you. I mean, look at oh, my eyes. So this is kind of funny to look at. Look at the usage rate of Dead Hard. Look at that. If you don't know which one Dead Hard is this one. It's this one that's streaking well out above the rest. That is nutty. That is insane, just how much more it was being used. And you know, I've been pretty consistent in saying that any given game, 3 of 4 survivors are going to be using Dead Hard, and look at that, 75%. So not to say I told you so, it wasn't exactly a bold statement on my part, but yeah, we're gonna get rid of this, so hopefully I'm not blinded by the end of this. But okay, it's too strong, right? And then the killer meta, right? So this one's kind of interesting because if you look at the killer meta, you don't quite have as much of the same thing, but what you do have is, very interestingly, you see Scourge Hook Pain Resonance just shoots up. It's like, okay, people realized how good this is. Barbecue and Chili, fascinating that it has maintained its place. Obviously, that's all about the blood points. The benefit is nice, but, you know, the blood points are really the draw there. So, let's get into it. Let us talk about these perks. So, with Barbecue and Chili, this one is straightforward. This one's a bit... I'm already showing you Ruin. I'm giving you spoilers, even though you've probably read this yourself. Barbecue and Chili is losing the blood point aspect. From now on, there are no stacks for Barbecue and Chili. You don't get 100% bonus blood points, which, if they're right, and they've reduced the grind by 75%, I'm okay with that. And I know that I've been called a killer homer before. I've been told I'm too killer biased. This is a massive nerf for the most popular killer perk. I'm okay with it. I think it's fine. I honestly don't think this is that bad given the other changes. Ruin, I predicted in my video that all it would be is a nerf to the numbers, and that's exactly what it is. Now, it's a harsher nerf than I expected. I thought it'd go down to 150. It went down to 100, so it's cut in half. But if you think about it, it's still a good perk. Ruin's still going to be popular, and in fact, I think with some of the other nerfs we're seeing, Ruin might become more popular again. Not on par with where it used to be, but still on par. Pop Goes the Weasel is another one that I predicted would just lose its numbers. And to some extent that's true. Instead of 25%, it's 20% because they're accounting for the 2.5% that you're already losing, or that the survivors are already losing when you kick a gen. So, you know, nothing too crazy there. But what they also did is it is relevant to the current progress, not the total progress, which means if you kick a gen that is at 99%, you're going to get massive value out of Pop Goes the Weasel. However, if you kick a gen that's at 20%, you're going to get very minimal value, and you'd be better off kicking another generator, unless there's just none around. So overall, another good change. It gets my approval. By the way, most of these in the meta category are all nerfs. I'll point out if it's not, but they're mostly all nerfs. So Corrupt, by the way, I thought it was just going to be a slight time reduction. They nailed Corrupt. This is so cool. So Corrupt will work as previously, right? As it currently does, buying killers time, but all generators are unblocked as soon as the first survivor is put into the dying state, meaning they're downed. That's good. That means that once a killer gets corrupt value, corrupt goes away. It's still going to be a highly meta perk, I think, especially for setup killers like Trapper, but it's no longer going to be the bane of everybody's existence that just wants to have fun. So very good there. Tinkerer is very interesting because I feel so stupid. I feel so stupid. I've read this one again and again, and it's not clicking with me. It's not okay, so currently, when a generator reaches 70% progress, you get a noise notification and become undetectable for a short duration. It's 16 seconds, I think, right? Or maybe it's like 10 seconds. I can't really remember, but I think it's 16. Tinkerer is a popular choice, yada yada. It can, however, become a little oppressive. Therefore, Tinkerer can now only activate once per generator. I understand that. I get that, right? But with the base charges increased to 90, killers will have extra time to approach. That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make any sense to me. Am I reading this wrong, foodies? Am I losing my mind? Please tell me, because it sounds like you have less time to approach. If it's at 90%, I don't know. I think I'm just losing it. Which overall, I'm not a fan of that change. That's the first nerf that I'm just not big on it. Even though I do think that with all the other nerfs they did, I think Tinkerer would have been disgustingly meta. So I know they had to do something. I don't know. It feels maybe a little too harsh, but we'll see. We'll see where it stands, by the way. All of these, I'm going to be open-minded and I'm going to give them a chance. No one escapes death. Now, you know those videos of the guys dancing with the coffin? That's Survivor mains right now, except not quite, because NOED was not changed in the way that we expected. NOED is still an insta-down perk. It's still a hex that only activates at the end of the game if not all of the totems have been cleansed. However, what they did here is they essentially gave it a 30-second lifespan, unofficially. So what it does now is anybody that comes within 4 meters of NOED's totem will be able to see it. It'll be highlighted, right? It'll be a little red totem if it's like through a wall or something. So that's already going to help you find it, but after 30 seconds, it goes from 4 meters to 24 meters, which is pretty substantial. And basically what that does is that guarantees that somebody, if you have 2 or 3 survivors still alive, somebody's going to find that totem almost instantly. And it's no longer a case of, oh, the killer has NOED, I'm leaving, I'm not saving you. So I'm excited for this. I still think NOED is going to be a highly controversial perk. I think people are still going to get very mad if you use it. However, I don't think it's nearly as bad now. Now I think they solved a large part of the issue. I would say if they do anything, maybe make it more than 24 meters, but 24 is pretty generous. So yeah, I don't know. I'm okay with it. I think it's kind of cool. Pain resonance. This one I was kind of unsure on. I thought they would just make it to where the reduction wasn't as bad, but I was wrong. Turns out they took the information aspect of the perk. So if you don't know, currently with pain resonance, you throw them on a scourge hook, they scream, the gen loses progress. Great, right? Now you know where they are and you've cost them progress on their gen. Well, what they did is they doubled down on losing progress. However, you don't make them scream anymore and you don't know where they are. So you don't get that same level of information from the perk, but you get the same level of regression. This is good. This is a good change. And honestly, it's going to make pain resonance so much less obnoxious. I'm sorry, I keep getting pop-ups. So much less obnoxious to go up against. This is a good change. This is a really good change. Speaking of good changes, ready for this one, survivors? Are you ready? Because, okay, here we go. Dead Hard. Indecisive strike. Borrow time. Dead Hard. I'm giddy about this one. I'm so happy about this one. Oh, you bastard. Dead Hard, you will no longer be able to Dead Hard for a pallet. You don't get the distance. You still have the iframes, which I said they were going to cut out one aspect of it. The distance or the iframes. I predicted the iframes and I predicted wrong. You now can provide yourself with the endurance status effect for 1 second when you use Dead Hard. Which basically, again, to remind you what the endurance status effect is, just in case you don't know, it's like being hit after you have, like when you have borrowed time activated. So you'll get a little speed boost and you don't go down. So Dead Hard's still a pretty good perk, but it will not make up for some of the mistakes like it previously has. I think it's still a meta perk. I think it's still going to be used a lot. However, it takes more skill now. And I never thought I'd see the day where I was able to say that about Dead Hard. So I'm so happy. Decisive Strike. Firstly, they addressed this in here that you're no longer going to have like a paragraph describing what you have to do to activate and not lose Decisive Strike. So that's great. Basically, you remember when I told you way back to kind of keep it in your head, conspicuous actions? Well, if you perform a conspicuous action, you lose Decisive Strike. This means if you work on a generator, if you try to boon a totem or break a totem or whatever you want to do, if you try to heal a teammate or heal yourself, yada, 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 right? If you're doing anything but running away from the killer, you're going to lose it, which is good because if it is well and truly an anti-tunneling perk, why would you need it if you're not running away from the killer, right? So with this one, it's kind of cool because they thought about something that I'm really glad they did. I'm sorry, I'm trying to look down to see. Yeah, so it's got the same time limit, I believe, of 60 seconds, so still extremely strong there. However, you don't get to use it after the exit gates are powered, and also you don't stun the killer for as long. So, you know, you stab the killer and they eat a 5-second stun. Now it's a 3-second stun. So pretty good, pretty good. It's not nearly as much of a get out of jail free card here. And I think killer mains, this whole update's going to make killer mains very happy. But I think survivors should be able to say, you know what, these are still very strong. We just don't get as many free passes now. Which, by the way, no-ed also means, hey, guess what? No-ed and pain resonance, killers, no free passes. So both sides are losing some of their strongest toys, and they're going to have to rely, both sides are going to have to rely on skill a little more. So if you're like me and you're utterly skillless, that's devastating. But if you're like, if you have like the wrinkly brain, you'll be fine, I promise. Borrowed time. So basically, borrowed time, this one is kind of crazy. It feels a little bit like a buff, which is wild. You extend the duration of the endurance effect of an unhooked survivor by 10 seconds, which means that it'll be up to 15 seconds. Pretty strong there. Same goes for the speed bonus. So that's that haste that they get, the 7% movement speed bonus. That's nice. That's nice. Again, if they perform a conspicuous action, however, they lose borrowed time. So what's cool there is if you unhook somebody, let's say you have 2 people down in the basement, right? 2 of them hooked. Person A comes and unhooks one of them, and the unhooked person goes for the other unhook. What happens there is they are suddenly fair game. They can be downed again. So borrowed time is going to encourage them to get the heck out of there, get out of the basement. And I like that. That is keeping more with the spirit of the perk. It's a good change. Iron Will, I called this one. It's just making it to where you can't be entirely silent. However, they nerfed it a lot more than I thought they would. I said they'd take it down to 90%. It's 75%. Also, Iron Will is no longer active when exhausted, though it does not exhaust you itself. So if you sprint burst, all of a sudden you're not going to have Iron Will. And this is a pretty harsh nerf. I wonder how meta this perk will be going forward. My thought, not nearly as meta as it's been. It's not going to be one you see every game, because currently you see Iron Will every game. You're not going to see it every game. However, it's still a good perk. I still think it has benefit. It's just not nearly as good as it used to be. Self-care. Self-care is kind of contentious. Some people think it's really good. Some people think it's not. So DBD, or Behavior, had this interesting idea and said, what if we united everybody in thinking that this perk is terrible? So I did call this one. The item efficiency is gone. That was my prediction, was that they were going to get rid of the item efficiency. What I didn't see coming is that they nerfed the numbers to be 35% to your healing speed of yourself instead of 50%. So yeah, self-care, I was joking about saying nerfed into the ground. Self-care will still have its uses, but damn, dude, I don't know. This perk got a lot worse. Whether you thought this perk was S tier or like B tier, I don't think anybody's denying it's clearly not S tier anymore. I would say it's clearly not A tier anymore. However, if you're a self-care user, go on, use it. Just maybe now more than ever, don't use it against Sloppy Butcher. Spine Chill. Guys, I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I called this one accurately too. They took out the vault speed bonus when you're being looked at, right? They did some other things, but the big thing is they took out the vault speed bonus, and they did it for the reason that I thought they would. They say that it does not suit the perk's nature, right? It doesn't make sense that the Scaredy Cat would also be an expert looper. So I think that's fantastic. They're also trying to get rid of the thing where, like, if you have Spine Chill, you know, you'll see the cat flicker, flicker, flicker because the killer's looking around. So that's not going to happen. Also, Spine Chill will now only activate if the killer has a clear line of sight to the survivor. This is a harsh nerf. This is a massive nerf for Spine Chill, which I've thought for a long time has been an irrefutable S tier perk. Now I think it got a lot worse. It got a lot worse. And if you're a Ghostface main or a Wraith main or any stealth killer, this is a day to rejoice. This is, oh no, Epic Games, gross, food's not a gamer. I had to download it to play Evil Dead, so ignore the pop-ups. But yeah, if you are into the stealth killers, this nerf right here is the entire reason you're celebrating today. So, non-meta perk changes. Just like all of these, for the most part, were nerfs, except for maybe Borrowed Time. These, and Borrowed Time's somewhat of a nerf, because you can lose Borrowed Time now from something more than getting hit or running out of time. These are almost all buffs. Overcharge. I said that this might be its time to kind of step towards the meta, but I was worried that they were going to hurt it. They didn't hurt it. In fact, it just feels like Call of Brine, but better. So you still get the extremely difficult skill check after you kick one, after you kick using Overcharge, that is, and the 2.5 reduction from the generator, which comes with all kicks now. And in addition to that, for the next 30 seconds, the generator is going to regress at 400% the normal speed. Overcharge is about to be very meta. Eruption. This is one that I thought they would actually cool down or nerf the incapacitated status. I was wrong. I was very wrong. They buffed it. So now you're going to have almost a full half minute of not being able to touch a generator when Eruption is used. That's terrible. I think Eruption is going to become very unfun to face very quickly. However, it's a lot better now, and you cost them 10% of the generator they're on. Yikes. I think that one's gonna jump towards the meta. We'll see if I'm wrong on that. Knockout. I was hoping they'd just get rid of the range thing, but what it actually does is it slows survivor crawl speed, and their recovery speed is reduced by 25 seconds. And that's only, by the way, that's only for the first... By 25%, I was wondering, I said seconds, sorry. By 25%, that's only for 15 seconds. After that, everything goes back to normal. So if you have like a build to try to beat slugging, you can still actually try to beat it, especially with tenacity, which has been improved. And we'll get to that in a second. Next up, my boy, the Clown, Colorophobia. This one is a minor buff, but it is still a buff. The speed of skill checks increases by 50% when you're in his radius. I was worried they were going to overbuff this one. It turns out they might have underbuffed it. It's still a terrible perk. It's still not good at all. Faster skill checks are not going to work against many good survivors. Dark Devotion. This one is such a good change. I feel so stupid. So for all of them that I'm like, hey, I called it, I feel like an absolute fool for not getting this one. I cannot believe I didn't think of it. All they're doing here is if you injure the obsession by any means, you now activate Dark Devotion and lose your terror radius, which makes so much sense because, you know, you think about it, it came with the Plague, a killer who's very dependent on hitting survivors with something other than her M1, and one of her coolest perks, if not her coolest perk, was completely dependent on using M1s. So now, if you hit somebody with a chainsaw, or, you know, if you hit somebody with the Vile Purge, or whatever it is, you know, a Nurse Blink, or what, which I think those do count as M1s now, you're going to activate Dark Devotion. This perk just became a lot easier to use, and I'm excited about that. That's good. Jolt. Jolt has jumped into the S tier, probably. The cooldown's gone. You can use Jolt to your heart's content. Yeah. You can use Jolt time after time after time, so long as you're downing people in range. They are going to activate Jolt. S tier may be too generous, but it's definitely at least A tier. Jolt is a lot better now, and I'm very excited about it because Jolt is one of the healthiest perks in the game. This perk requires killers to get downs to do anything with it, right? That's good. That's what you want. Lethal Pursuer has said they would buff or nerf the numbers just a little bit. That turns out to be true. It lasts for 2 seconds longer, right? No, it doesn't. I'm sorry. It's true that they buffed it, but it isn't the initial one that that gets buffed. What it is anytime you read a survivor's aura and you have Lethal Pursuer, that aura will last for 2 seconds longer. So if you have barbecue and chili or something along those lines, you're going to see survivors for 2 more seconds. Now, I don't know if Lethal Pursuer also is buffing itself, like if now it goes for 2 seconds longer. I don't know how that works, but anyway. Gift of Pain has been made stronger. Basically, if you heal yourself after being on a Scourge Hook, you are going to have an action speed penalty of 16%, which, by the way, I'm really glad it's here with Thanatophobia, because for all the talk about quickening the pace of play, this is kind of terrifying to me. I'm not going to lie. So 16%, and Thanatophobia got a blanket buff to how long it how long it can delay you. So now you can get up to 22% delayed action speed, or a penalty to action speed, which I'm not great at math, but that's 38%. That's a lot. That's really a lot. If you pair these two with like a really mean Pentimento build or something, all of a sudden, gosh, that's I never encourage people to DC from games. I think that's super lame, but maybe there. Maybe there. This is another one I was right on. Scourge Hook Monstrous Shrine, right? Monstrous Shrine is now a Scourge Hook, and what it does is it makes every hook in the basement a Scourge Hook. That is nasty. That is great. And in addition to that, the survivors die 20% faster on the hook, so long as the killer is not within 24 meters. Great. It means that you can't just have a Bubba who is able to bring you down to the basement, camp you, and get those nasty benefits. A great change. Excuse me. This one I think is one of my favorite changes, and I'm very excited to see how it plays out. Calm Spirit. This one's interesting. It's always been a bit of a guilty pleasure perk of mine. Now you can open chests and I guess just interact with totems silently, which is cool. But you do it at 30% reduced speed. Overall, I think that's a buff. I think that's a better version of it. It's still not going to be a very good perk, but I think that you get more usage out of it, and that's nice. Saboteur, very simple. I like how they actually phrased this. After months of studying, saboteurs can now identify Scourge Hooks. This is cool. I'm kind of surprised again that I'm such a big dingus that I didn't even think about that when I was like, I don't know what they could possibly do to Saboteur. And I predicted that it was going to be something wacky, and it turns out it's just totally understandable and is super reasonable. So, you know, egg on my face, shame on me. I feel silly. Botany Knowledge. Botany Knowledge is getting a buff. It's going from 33% to 50% increase. Pretty crazy. I worry about that one. I worry about that a lot. Botany Knowledge is about to get used a lot more, which is kind of scary because it's already a pretty good perk. Off the record, you get 80 seconds of the endurance status effect. Pretty good. Pretty good, right? I'm kind of surprised they didn't do anything about the noise reduction. I kind of wish they would have, but you know, maybe they just overlooked that. I still think they probably should, but we'll see. We'll see. It's definitely a better perk now than it was yesterday. Lucky Break. This is one I'm going to give myself some credit. I'm going to get half credit. I said they were going to change it so that you could use it more, and this is cool. Basically, by healing another survivor, you build up Lucky Break's duration so that you can use it again as the trial goes on. Lucky Break, if I'm not a complete idiot, right? I'm going to guess that this one, I'm going to foresee that this becomes an even more meta perk because it looks pretty good. This is a flat out buff to an already pretty good perk, and it's the buff that answers the greatest gripe about the perk, being that you get to use it once and then never again. So we'll see. That's kind of scary, but we'll see. Pharmacy, I'm sad about. I'm very sad about it. Sure, hypothetically, you could have, I mean, I was going to say up to 5, but if you bring like coins and all that, 7, 8, whatever, green med kits throughout the game. Basically, if you get hit, Pharmacy activates and you can then go get a med kit out of a chest. I don't like it as much, but I'm going to give it a try before I really knock it. I'm just going to say that having to be hit before you can get the benefit of pharmacy is unfortunate, because what I always liked about pharmacy is usually you spawn somewhere near a chest. So you go and you open that chest 80% more quickly and you get a med kit and you didn't have to bring an item. That's what I always liked about it. So I'm kind of sad about that. Soul Survivor is interesting because in addition to all that it currently does, which is basically making it where the killer can't see your aura at all, it now has this benefit of you repair generators at 75% the normal speed, and you open gates at 50% the normal speed, which, by the way, if you pair that with Wake Up, what's that, 75% opening speed of gates? Nutty. What that basically encourages, and it's kind of funny, is now you might not, like if you get down to the place where all of your teammates are dead, you are going to actually have some incentive to actually repair a gen and go open the exit gate, instead of just relying solely on the thought of like, okay, well, let's go find hatch. Do I think that makes it a meta perk? No, I don't, but it's a buff and it needed a massive buff. Distortion, this is a great change. This is great. So basically you can gain more distortion by being close to the killer. So kind of like Stakeout from Detective Tap. And that's really cool. So basically, you're not confined to the set tokens you have, and then after the killer would have seen your aura X amount of times, you're done. Now, you could hypothetically have infinite stacks. So, I mean, you won't have infinite stacks, but you get what I'm saying. Pretty good buff. Lightweight, another one that I got pretty straight on. It's the Anti-Predator. And now it's just going to spread your scratch marks out, which for me, as a guy who can't follow scratch marks already, this is my nightmare. Deja Vu. I was wrong on this one. I was very wrong on this one. The 3 generators that are highlighted at the beginning of the game for you, you will repair them 5% faster. Again, kind of spooky. I hope that it turns out to be as terrible as Deja Vu usually is, but you know, 5% repairing speed it's not nothing, especially with like Prove Thyself. I don't know. Prove Thyself in a brand new part means that, you know, Deja Vu may have its moments of actually being kind of scary. Plus Spine Chill. No One Left Behind. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, you still get the buff to altruistic actions that you normally get, and you give a 7% movement speed to anybody you unhook. You still probably should just run Borrowed Time. Dark Sense, completely changed. It used to be that when the killer kicked a pallet or kicked a door or whatever, you would get their aura. Now what it is when they come within 24 meters of you after you've powered a gen, you have to power the gen to activate it. If they come within 24 meters of you, you see their aura for 10 seconds. I actually kind of view this as probably a bit of a nerf, actually. I don't know. I don't like it a lot. I don't like this one. I thought Dark Sense was always a kind of fun, underrated perk, and I'm sad to see it get reworked in a way where I just don't think it's going to be nearly as useful. Tenacity, a David Tap perk. This one, I predicted a minor nerf. It got a minor buff. So it reduces your grunts of pain by 75%. So not only can you crawl halfway to China by the time the killer comes back for you after slugging you for a bit, but now if they can't see you, they're in trouble because they might not be able to hear you either. And it kind of makes me wonder, all the things where people were reporting Tenacity making them a lot quieter on the ground, was it actually a bug, or was it a feature accidentally introduced to the game a little too early? I don't know. I think it was a bug, but still, it's kind of funny in hindsight. Hope. I had a lot of comments. No way they buff Hope. Hope is great for those who like to make late game saves. It now has an infinite duration, which was my exact prediction for it. So I'm going to pat myself on the back, and I'm going to be an arrogant jerk and say, ha, ha, sometimes I'm right. And I'm going to cherish it because a lot of the time I'm wrong. Like with Overzealous, I mean, I did say it needed a numbers buff, but they found a cooler way to do it. My recommendation was kind of crude. They found a more actually useful way to do it. Basically, you get an 8% buff to your gen speed if you break a totem. That's already been in there. But now if you break a hex totem, you get a 16% buff to repairing generators, which honestly, that makes this perk more worth using. That's pretty cool. and then we're gonna live forever, just like barbecue and chili. The blood point aspect is gone, and that's about it as far as that's concerned. Yeah, if you're gonna take it from barbecue, you need to take it from we're gonna live forever, even though I don't know, because killers do get more blood points, so I don't know. But anyway, that's it. That's the whole thing. This is, guys, this feels to me, and somebody said this in my Discord, so I don't want to act like this I had this original thought and I'm the only one who's thought it, but this feels to me like DBD 2, kind of like what Overwatch did, right? Like this is some massive change. The meta will not be the same. Look at these perks. Look at them. The meta will not be the same. This is awesome. This is so cool. This is going to freshen things up a lot and hopefully bring a lot of players back to the game. This is a company that, for all that we criticize them for, they listened. And they made some really good changes here. Eruption still worries me. I'm not going to lie to you and say that, look, I've been wrong in the past. I've worried about pricks that turned out to be terrible. I hope that's what I'm doing here. Eruption looks really good. Or not even really good. It looks really frustrating. It's 25 seconds of not being able to touch a gen. Seems terrible. But anyway, I am super excited about these changes. And I think that everybody should give them a chance. Whether you are delighted or horrified, give it a chance. Because here's the thing. These aren't going live tomorrow. These are going to hit the playable test build, player test build, sorry, the PTB, right? It is going to hit the PTB. Everybody's going to get the chance to hop in, see what's meta, see what's not, see what's crack-a-lackin', and that's cool. I'm very excited for that. I think it's going to be a really good time. How do you feel about it? Which of these changes are you most excited for? Are you most sad about? You know, hey, did you enjoy the video? I hope you did. And if you did, remember, I stream on Twitch, so you could interact with me a little more live, you know? I could ask you how your day's been. We could talk it out, have a good time. That's what we do. I hope you enjoyed this one. I'm going to head off now because I am a very tired boy. I will hopefully be back on Friday with another video. My schedule's been crazy, so I apologize if I missed that deadline. But either way, thank you so much for checking this video out. I hope that you have a lovely day. And until next time, I've been DasFood. Bye, friends.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my